Welcome everyone. I'm glad you were all able here to join us tonight. My name is Matt Schimmelhorn. I'm a member of the Comm Alumni Council here at UCSB. We're excited to have you attend our virtual career series. Before we start, let me go ahead and share my screen. So what we're looking at here with our virtual monthly career series is an opportunity for you to learn about our UCSB Comm Alumni. We established this series in the hopes of educating our students and alumni basically on what our alumni have been doing career-wise. They speak on a variety of topics, but typically related to their own personal fields. Tonight, we are joined by our great friend, Cody Corona. Cody previously served on the council with us, but that's not the reason you're here to see him. You're here to see him because Cody is currently working in the video game industry as a director of product management. Currently, he's at Ripple Effect Studio, but he has prior experience working at Activision and Rockstar Games. So we're excited to have Cody here. Beyond Cody, we do have a number of alumni upcoming, which I will share. But first, I want to point you to the top right. If you have interest in seeing previous virtual career series and want to understand how to become more involved with the comm career, this link here brings you to our Department of Communication webpage. Here you'll see a variety of resources that will educate you on what we do here with the Virtual Career Series, but also provides you links to the Comm Alumni Council as well. For some of those who attended or jumped into the meeting a little later, I also want to point out that at the All Gaucho reunion at the end of the month, we will be hosting a Comm Career Day. This event has been ongoing for quite some time now, over a decade, I would have to say. And it's a great opportunity for you to learn from your alumni. Keynote speakers will be in attendance. Cody will be one of them. And it's a great networking opportunity. You have a chance to meet your fellow classmates, but also kind of learn about different industries and fields that our alumni have started working in. Upcoming, here are some of the previous virtual career series events that we've hosted, but as you may note, we do have some additional upcoming. Tom Bracken will be speaking on careers in media and marketing in May, and then in June we'll have Annie Lee speaking on careers in marketing and branding. So we definitely encourage you to attend as many of these events as you can. Again, a great opportunity for you to learn about what we do here in the council, but more so what our alumni have done career-wise in the virtual career series. We also want to encourage you to, if you're not already connected with us on social media, here's a few of our web resources: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Please join us. We do provide updates on what we are conducting in the Comm Council and what events may be occurring in the near future, and just any updates that may be of interest to you once you all become alumni and graduate from UCSB yourself. So I'll stop talking and turn it over to Cody, and want to thank him again for joining us tonight for our April virtual career series. So Cody, all yours.
Thank you, no problem. Excited to, I lost my Zoom screen. I didn't get booted from the Zoom, sorry about that.
You're good.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Let me get my Zoom, my presentation set back up.
And while Cody's getting set up, I do want to encourage, as we go through the presentation tonight, if you have any questions, be sure to ask via chat. If you'd like to come off camera and or off your mute and ask Cody directly, we can definitely have you do that as well. But we do encourage you to ask questions. This is definitely an informational event, so please.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's how, and excited to be here. Thanks, Matt, for that introduction, and really excited to be talking with all of you today. Here's how I've set it up. I want to devote most of this time to talking about my career journey, just the steps I took, not only after I graduated, but during my senior year as I was getting ready, those first few steps, and then what has been sort of transpired and led me to where I am today, 10 years since I graduated. So most of the time will be spent there. Once we get towards where I am today, I can talk a little bit about the video game industry and what I do today and some of the opportunities for you that are in this industry, because I'm a leader or a central hub or a sort of a strategic orchestrator of many cross-functional teams, ranging from marketing to more technical roles to more strategic and business roles, more finance roles. I work with all those groups, so I have some insight onto all those different ways that you can contribute. And hopefully there's some time, 5-10 minutes at the end for some Q&A and for you guys to ask anything that I might have missed. But yeah, like I said, I really want to spend some time on this career journey, because when I was a student, I went to all of these talks, all of these discussions, went to as many of these sessions as I could, because I just found not only extreme value and insight and learning lessons just from hearing about these journeys and these career pathways that others had, but it just gave me comfort, a level of comfort, just knowing that people that were in my same shoes or were sitting in the same classroom next to me a year ago were embarking on this journey that isn't that scary. It's not too bad. So hopefully I provide that level of comfort for you as well. All right, so let's jump into it. I will click. So I would say that the phases of my career, that the steps of my career fall into 5 phases, 5 being where I'm at now, and 1 being sort of my UCSB senior year. I had specific jobs or internships or even volunteer opportunities that sort of set me up and got me prepared for receiving that diploma and walking into the real world and getting ready to go. So I want to cover that a little bit, because I know there is some time for you guys and just to kind of think about how you can use these last few months of senior year, or for those who are entering their senior year, how you can think of that as the real true launching pad for your postgraduate career, and not just thinking about what you're going to do after you graduate until after you graduate. I'd say the next step for me is the next phase for me, I should say, is what I call the first few steps out of the gate. This is the first sort of internship and job that I had immediately after receiving my diploma. So that is going to be something I'm going to cover well, a postgraduate internship and the first job, real full-time job I had. And then there was a stumble, a bit of a pause and a bit of a moment to really think about my plan up to that point and think about what's really important to me and think about what I really want to do going forward, both the projects and the products that I work on, and also the places that I work, or the company that I keep, and the group of people that I choose to spend my time with. While I was really busting my ass at this job at Momofuku for a period, I really took that moment to really, I guess, not only change the trajectory of my career, but my life overall. So that's going to be a really important phase to talk about as well. We're going to go through each one of these in more detail, so don't worry about that. After that moment, phase 4, what I would consider is the proving ground, and this is the real meat of my time as a professional. It's when I got my foot in the door. It's when I actually started down the career path that I believe is for me and what I truly want to work on, and working on the types of products and working with the types of people and working at the types of places that I can't imagine being anywhere else or doing anything different. So not only was I honored and excited to have my foot in the door, this decade was actually about me proving that I can actually provide value and get the job done in an effective way. So we'll talk a bit about that, and I'm sure that's probably the area that you guys want to hear about a lot. And then finally, entering the leadership phase. Once I'm been promoted to director last year and continue to move up into more senior level roles, that's the phase I'm in now. And honestly, it's a whole new learning experience, figuring out how to lead large amounts of people across multiple countries, across multi-million-dollar projects. It's exciting, and obviously I'm not an expert because I'm new to that phase of my life and career, but That's the one I'm in now. So happy to talk a bit about that too, and to show you guys what can happen across 10 years after you've graduated. All right, so let's jump into it, unless there's any questions. All right, so I graduated in 2010, and throughout that year, and you'll see this in my next section here, but I really took a deep priority and made an effort to honestly spend more time on the job than in the classroom. I had a variety of different jobs, as well as internships, as well as volunteer opportunities that really saw me applying my skills, or applying all the things I learned, or learning on the job new things that I didn't necessarily learn in the classroom. That was my major priority throughout my senior year. So I worked for UCSB Recreational Sports. I was the director of events and partnerships there. So I was really proud of going out and signing new partners throughout the Santa Barbara community, as well as taking care of the partners we already have. So you can see on the top right, that image, me and my team. That was just one of many examples of ways that we thought of promoting some of our great sponsors by putting their logo on our jerseys, or hosting events like you see at the bottom where our sponsors are prominently featured, things like that. I also had some internships at local advertising agencies like the Shan Group, and I also worked with SB Media Group, which I don't think exists anymore, but it was sort of a student-run advertising club. But we had paying clients that we did ad campaigns and creative work for. So that was all just ways that, again, I was actually applying my skill set, as opposed to, sitting in class. And what I mean by that, and don't take that as hey, ditch class and go work. But I really made an effort across my first 3 years at UCSB to really front load my work and get my classes done early, so that way I could spend a lot of time senior year getting ready for postgraduate life. So it's not something I just consciously decided to do my first day of senior year. My hard work and persistence prior to that allowed me and freed up my time to use my senior year as an area of focus for getting out there and getting work experience, and getting examples of past work, and getting a book together, and getting all that ready to go, so that I had it ready to show my people I was interviewing with right away as soon as I graduated. I also took a lot of time attending network events and informational interviews and sessions just like this, where I was learning from folks. And I was driving down to LA and Ventura a ton, and downtown Santa Barbara a ton, to attend networking events, or job fairs, or career fairs, or coffee chats, or happy hours, where I could meet people who had the jobs that I was considering, and getting to know them, and giving them my business card that I printed out at Kinko's that morning, and just continuing to build those connections and meet the types of people who had jobs that I was considering, so I could figure out if that was something I was interested in. And then one thing that was very beneficial for me is that I actually secured my post-job job months before graduation even came. It's April, so about this time I had my internship lined up that I would start come June. So that was actually the inverse effect of, once I had that locked down and ready to go, I spent all of April, May just hanging out and taking it easy and surfing every day and relaxing. So that hard work up front actually resulted in more free time to just enjoy myself as my senior year concluded. So I was really happy that I was able to secure that and work that out. Some skills that I used and skills that I learned, just time management and coordination was absolutely critical during this time in this phase for me. Balancing obviously my studies and my midterms and preparing for finals and all of that, which was still happening. I don't want to make it seem like none of that was occurring. But then balanced that out with my really heavy work and internship and volunteer schedule. That was something new for me, because the previous years I was pretty much only focused on my studies and working at night. It wasn't that hard, but it really became a juggling act, keeping this heavy schedule all aligned and making sure I was giving proper respect to everything that I committed to and was involved in. The art of introducing yourself, networking with others, striking up conversations with people who have graduated already or have jobs that you want, finding the courage or the bravery to drive down to LA and enter a career fair and meet a bunch of people and ask to connect on LinkedIn afterwards and talk to them about what they do every day. I mean, that didn't really come natural to me when I was back then. And it's something that I had to learn on the fly and get comfortable with. And I'm really happy that I did that, because as you'll see in the slides coming up, that is a skill that I continue to refer back to, not only outside of the job, and helps me find new opportunities or new people to work with or new companies to work for, but internally as well. And I didn't know that at the time, but internal networking, internal bond forming, internal friendship forming is just as critical as external people who have other jobs that you want to go out and get. Another skill that was useful, one that I learned and really employed at this time, is chronicling the work that I completed, or showing off the actual application of my skills. You know, created a website for myself. I created a book for myself that I would take with me on interviews. I had areas that I could refer on my LinkedIn page. I had areas that I could send people or refer people to actually see the application of me putting my work into action. I think that's the biggest thing that holds seniors back, or people without any experience back, is that you may know how to do it up here and have the educational or academic background for, like, yeah, theoretically, I know how to write a business plan, or theoretically, I know how to graphic design a poster, but I can't prove that to anybody. And that's really what holds you back to others who have that, boom, here's a poster I designed, boom, here's a business plan I put together. So being able to think of ways, or a showcase, or a museum of work that you've completed that is applicable to what jobs want, that is really important, and something I did at that time that really allowed me to get a job locked down before I even graduated, because I could easily show people this is what I could do. And that's what's really critical for those without any experience, which most of you seniors or younger are in that boat. All right, and then we've talked about a lot about the rest, you know, forming connections and friendships and things like that. So I'll keep it moving, but feel free to ask me any questions here, or we can refer back to this, but I want to make sure we get through a lot of the next phases too. All right, so the first few steps out of the gate. So I graduated in 2010. The very next morning, extremely hungover, I hopped on a plane and flew to Portland, Oregon to start my brand new internship at Wieden & Kennedy, which is a pretty big and very prominent creative advertising agency that is in Portland. They're the biggest, if not the, one of the biggest, if not the biggest independent creative advertising agencies in the world. They do the most recognizable and top quality creative work that many of you will recognize. The agency of record for Nike, the agency of record for Old Spice, which is the client that I worked on, Visa, Coca-Cola, and just tons of the huge, biggest, most prominent brands in the world. So it was just a complete honor to have that opportunity. And I got it through getting involved in a multicultural advertising training program based out of LA, and networking with the people there who set me up with an interview with those, the people who were accepting interns at Wieden. And I would have never gotten a chance to interview for a job in Portland had I not met people in LA who had that connection. So it just goes to show the power of getting yourself out there and meeting people like that could set you up for, opportunities beyond your front door. I was really only focusing on Ventura and LA as opportunities for my immediate post-graduation job, but by investigating those, an opportunity in Oregon popped up, and boom, I went after that. So I will again continue to remind folks of that. After that internship concluded, speaking of moving around, I accepted a assistant account executive job at Gotham, which is agency doesn't exist anymore for several different reasons, but it was an agency in New York City that was had just received the Denny's diner account. So I would be on a brand new team that was going to be working on the very first client work for Denny's for that company. And that was really exciting too. I'd never been to the East Coast, never been east of Texas in my entire life up to that point, but accepted the job and moved out there, having never been to New York before, and started a completely, entirely new experience. And so that was fun as well. So around this new period, what I did, especially when I got into Whiting and especially when I got into Gotham, I just obsessed over the job and just fully committed. I was 22, didn't have any money and didn't have anything to do otherwise. So all I thought about was just perfecting my craft and being there to volunteer for whatever I can and just contribute in ways that go beyond my actual job responsibilities. And I found that fun. I mean, especially a place like White and Kennedy, they made it almost cool to be at the office. They had kegs on tap and they had like a cafe and a diner and like all this, a rooftop deck and all that stuff. And I was just with other young people from all over the world and all working on cool creative work for Nike and EA and Old Spice and Dodge. And it was just an incredible time. And so just to obsess over what we were doing and learn about it for the first time was incredibly fun. This concept of continuing to network and form friendships across the organization continued to hold true. I was an intern at White and Kennedy, my first stop. And so what I wanted to do is meet as many people who actually worked at White and Kennedy as possible so that I could become friends with them. They can't imagine ever working without me and can't imagine me a day where Cody Corona isn't here anymore. So that can just become part of the family. And so that when my internship concluded, it would feel like a major loss to see me walk out the door. And that was a really important thing for me to continue to do throughout that time. I'll get into why that doesn't necessarily work out in a minute. Volunteered for as many projects as I could, got involved in many initiatives that I could, even if I was outside of my purview, as I talked about. I just continued to help me round out my experience and learn about what other people were doing, which made me a better collaborator and a better leader, even if I wasn't, actually doing the graphic design or doing the finance work. I tried it. And so I know some of the pain points and the struggles that those teams go through. So later when I was collaborating with those teams, I had some empathy and perspective on what other teams do, so that way I could work with them better. I think, some of the things that I struggled with during this time, at the conclusion of my internship at White and Kennedy, I didn't get hired on for a full-time position at the conclusion of that. That was a major blow and a major disappointment for me. And I learned a lot, or I thought I learned a lot from that moment. I moved on and took a job at Gotham, moved all the way across the country. And I worked there for about a year and got fired at the end of my first year there. So at both of these stages, I got accepted into wonderful opportunities. I joined teams that were incredibly high powered and had a ton of great experience, and even to be noticed and hired onto these teams was extremely, a recognition of my skill and my background and in my pedigree and all of that. But in both of those situations, I washed out and it didn't work out, and I was essentially shown the door. And I think it's because of what I first said is I was more obsessed with and patting myself on the back with these opportunities that were really hard to get, but I got them. So I got a big head syndrome, and I really thought I was, the shit, because I got these great jobs that were really hard, and I gave myself too much credit for that. So I sort of walked around like I was, the gift to the advertising industry, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So I would just really, that was a major learning lesson for my life, and really caused some initial bumps in the road for me in the beginning of my career. So I just want to continue to provide that learning lesson for all of you, is to continue to stay open and honest and transparent, and really walk in every day as if you're new and don't know it all, and you're an open book or a blank slate that is ready to, grow from there. You hear all those terminologies of check your ego at the door, and all of that. And those things are so true, because when you're entering a workforce or a company or an industry or a team full of people who've been doing it for 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years, having an intern walk in who thinks they know more than you is never fun. And then trust me, now that I've been working in the industry 10 years and we have 10 new hires or interns come in and they think they know more than me, that puts me off. Now I'm in the shoes of the people that I was rubbing the wrong way back when I was 22. So I can see what I was doing and how that wasn't a good look. So definitely keep that in mind. And as you enter your first few jobs out of college, have confidence in yourself and believe in yourself and be assertive in the things that you want to do, and express that confidence and saying, yeah, let's do it, guys, or hey, we've got it, or no, I'm not worried about that, let's make it happen. And all that stuff is okay. Or even establishing boundaries of saying like, hey, you know what, I don't want to work after 7, and here's why, and here's what I'm going to do to make sure that everybody can get off at a perfect amount of time. So that's not the stuff I'm talking about. I'm more talking about of like, really kind of brushing off good advice, or, demanding things that are completely ridiculous for a 22-year-old 6 months into the job person to be demanding, things like that. I'm including my last bullet here, which is, there was a few situations where I messed up. My team messed up. We missed a deadline. We allowed a coupon to go out for Denny's with a massive typo in the headline, things like that. And my tactic at the time, which was a dumb 22, 23-year-old, was to do what I could to avoid personal blame for that. And I tried to blame others or throw others under the bus or provide all these reasons, some of which were made up, for why that error occurred. And that actually just dug me into a worse hole and a deeper hole than it would have otherwise. If I would have just straight up owned it and said, you know what, that one's on me, it'll never happen again. You know what, I messed up, but here's the things I'm going to change to ensure I don't make that mistake twice. Yeah, we screwed up, but no excuses for that. We're going to be better next time. Things like that go way longer, and I've learned to this day, or go way longer in recovering from that situation of like, oh, I didn't know that was the deadline. I thought it was next week. There's no way we would have, and then people just start to really question your integrity at that point, when you're clearly trying to pass the buck. So yeah, wanted to give you guys some fair warning about that, and happy to talk more about it if you guys want. Some skills I used and skills I learned during this time is just a massive intake of new lessons, as we talked about, the good ones and hard lessons to learn, new skills that are just coming in. At UCSB, my only skill was like studying, and then now I got to like learn, study, and apply and do all within the same hour of every single day of every week, the entire year. It was just an incredible learning experience for me, in addition to all the new ways of work, from the programs to the tools to the sharing the software and all of this stuff. It was just, so you got to be ready for that. And it's more than just like being able to write your notes down on a lined piece of paper super fast, which I have no idea if they do at UCSB anymore. It's more than that. So just be ready for that sort of onslaught, depending on your industry, of course, but just speaking from my personal experience here. Time management and coordination is extremely important. Importance of project prioritization, I think, is probably the theme of my first 5 years out of college, in the sense of people are going to load a bunch of projects and a bunch of to-dos on the new person, the new guy, the entry-level person. So it's really important for you to prioritize the projects that you have, put them in a triage order or a priority order, and actually communicate that prioritization back to your team or back to your manager. Hey boss, you've given me 10 things to do. Here's how I've ranked them in terms of priority or in terms of importance, and I'm going to work top down. And you're going to get the first 3 things today by end of day. You're going to get the first 6 things by end of the week. And unfortunately, I can't get through 9 and 10 until next week. Is that okay? Is this aligned with what you are expecting? And if not, we need to shuffle things around. Maybe the thing that's number 8 needs to move to number 2. And let's talk about that, because a lot of things that I got caught that I messed up with and got caught too late was that I would prioritize something, don't tell anybody about it because I just wasn't sure if that's what I should do. The thing that I had at number 8 really should have been number 2, but my boss thought that was going to be delivered tomorrow, but I thought it was okay to next week. Next week rolls around and he's wondering where that thing was, and I thought I was doing okay because I didn't think it was due till next week. So it's really important to prioritize your workload, but then do what I didn't do, communicate that back out to your team and your manager just to make sure that you guys are on the same page in terms of that prioritization. So that's really important. And then my last bullet here is I started to learn the first instance and the first reps, and this is like the absolute DNA of my job today, at adapting my communication style per recipient or per team that I'm working with, depending on how they best receive their input, how they best receive collaboration or tasks or brainstorming. At any given day from this time in my life when I was at an ad agency, I could be talking to the art department, the finance department, the experiential events department, the front desk. And even today, I talk about technical design, engineering, PR, community and social. I talk with our trailer team. I talk with our team in Japan. I talk with our team in Mexico City. I talk with our team in London. It's what I've been doing across my entire career since 2010. And the way I talk, each one of those teams requires different ways of being talked to, or a different way of being presented to, or a different way to task them things to do, or different ways to pose questions, or different ways to pick their brains, or even be controversial and provoke them into thinking ways that they're not comfortable thinking about. For example, when I'm talking to the engineering team who are more technical, I'll just get right to the point. Hey guys, this is broken. What do we need to do to fix it? Here's the snap that's in our data pipeline that we need a few engineers to come in and patch that right away, so that way we can continue to get this to our players. Whereas if it's the community and PR team, the folks that are writing all of our tweets or creating all of our TikTok videos, hey man, let's go get a beer and talk about what we want to do next week on our YouTube account. And we'll spend 15 minutes BSing about something, the Oscars slap, and then maybe I'll sneak in like a suggestion on what we can do on the Call of Duty Twitter account. And that's actually more effective than me being like, hey, Jim, make a YouTube video about this. Bye. So, but that would actually work better with the engineering team. They just want to know what you want me to do, and then I'm out of here. So anyways, that's really an important lesson I learned during this phase that I continue to refer back to today, and I will going forward. All right, I spent a lot of time there, so I'll keep going. Phase 3. So as I mentioned, I was let go from my first job that I had in New York. I spent a few months interviewing around town, but I was just trying to take any job that I could to pay rent. But it wasn't really working out because I didn't have any interest in what I was, the companies that I was going to be working for, or the products that I'd be working on, which actually, made me realize some of the struggle that I had at my previous roles, where my client was Old Spice deodorant and my client was Denny's Diners. I didn't really have a personal attachment, a personal interest, or any hands-on experience with any of that stuff. So I ultimately didn't care about what I was doing. So we'll get to that in a minute. But so because I wasn't landing jobs, because I was continuing to interview for more and more places like what I was just doing, I needed to find somewhere to pay the bills. So I made up a fake resume and got a job as a back waiter at Momofuku, which I knew nothing about. And I got the job only to find out that it was like New York City's hottest restaurant that was like completely slammed every single day, because there was an upcoming celebrity chef that many of you might have heard of named David Chang, who created the place, and everyone from the entire East Coast and abroad was coming in town to eat at this new Momofuku restaurant that I was suddenly plopped in the middle of and expected to contribute. I'd say this was the ultimate humbling experience because I was jumping in to something that I had never done before, but in an ultimate fast-paced environment that had high expectations and that was full of people that are extremely passionate and very serious about their craft, and they will not allow anything or anyone to screw up the craft that they care about or the experience for the customer. It was just a massive learning lesson for me and really a huge slice of humble pie. It really taught me a lot about commitment to the craft, commitment to working on something that is extremely important to you, commitment to working on something that you dream about every day that you sleep, commitment to something that you personally find enjoyable, that you personally find exciting or fulfilling, or that you personally feel is the coolest thing in the world, and commitment to the customer, commitment to the experience that you're providing your customers, or what would eventually become the players. That was an eye-opening experience. And I walked in having no idea what I was doing. There was no opportunity for me to act like the big shot. There was no opportunity for me to act like I was the know-it-all, but I was still expected to perform. And I walked in to this job every single day knowing nothing because I didn't know anything, but it didn't matter if I did or didn't. I walked in as though I didn't. And that made me a much better collaborator, a much better teammate, a much better contributor, a much better everything. And so that really, again, changed the course of my trajectory, or changed the trajectory of my career, but my life as well. And I walked in every single day to every job I had, even to this day. I walk in stupid and walk in as a blank slate, just like I did when I was at this restaurant, without any preconceived notions or without any playbook that I think I have or think I've already written. And even if I do know it, you walk in as if you don't. And that way, every day is exciting. Every day you grow. Every day you open yourself up to learning things that you would have been resistant to learning if you didn't walk in that way. And then people just like you more. That's really important too. So during this time, one of the other things, and because I saw how deeply people cared about their job, and they cared about the food at Momofuku, and cared about the experience for the customer at Momofuku, and cared about the strength of the team, and they just cared a lot about it. I said, from here on, I'm going to resemble the awesome staff and chefs and here at this restaurant. I'm only going to work on products and or at companies that I am personally interested in, that I find personal enjoyment, that I am hobbies of. And at the time, I planted a flag in the ground and said, it's only sports and only video games. And I will not work anywhere else. And through that focus and through that elimination and through that narrowing, through that funnel, I actually had more success in finding opportunities, because I had a bit of it was the same way coming out of college. I had what I call paralysis by analysis, or analysis paralysis, where I had way too many options, and then I was failing at any given one because there was just too much on my palette that I couldn't really devote all of my attention and focus and consideration for any few options, because I was considering too much. But once I focused it down on just sports or just video games, which is still a huge, both are really big industries, but it allowed me to really fine tune and focus the opportunities that I was pursuing. Whereas when I was also considering finance, when I was also considering being a lawyer, when I was also considering maybe being an athletic trainer, when I was also considering, oh, maybe it was just, I was doing all of them poorly instead of focusing it down and doing a few things a lot better. And then, what I eventually found once I actually started down the video game industry, there's just so much fulfillment and enjoyment when you're actually working on a product that I have spent my entire life personally enjoying, it just really starts to blur that line between what is work and what is play. And I think that's, for me, that was just the only way I can actually, spend my days. So I think that's really important too. In your outlook may be different, but that's what worked for me. During this phase, skills used, skills learned, obviously the hustle and the hustle to really grind it out every day and ensure that I was spending my time and really committing to do a good job at the restaurant and working till 2 a.m. and closing the restaurant down, but then also waking up early and getting on the interview circuit and all the things I did during the last phase, informational interviews, networking events, sessions just like this. All of that I was still doing during the day and then going to work at the restaurant at night. Persistence. I personally don't think that if you focus your attention on working at Coach or working at Tesla or working at Apple or working at Microsoft, like you will get it eventually. Like even if you spend your entire life trying to get that job, you will get it eventually. There's literally nothing in the world that will stop you. Even if your foot in the door is working in the mailroom, like you will get your job at Tesla eventually. So it's the persistence that counts. And so that's what I continue to knock on the door of Rockstar Games over and over and over every single day until eventually it worked out. And that persistence isn't what made it happen, not anything special I did on my resume or some brilliance I said during my interview. So that's important as well. I'll keep it moving here. We talked a lot about the humility and transparency and passion for the craft and enlightened by the power of focus and funneling your options down, empowered by personal commitment to only work on what interests me. And so we talked about that. So I'll keep it moving here.
Yeah, Cody, I just want to give you an update. We're at a 15-minute mark.
Cool.
Yeah.
The last few sections are a lot smaller, so we'll keep it going. Yeah, so I think this is a lot smaller section, so we'll see. Phase 4 is what I call the proving ground. So I got my foot in the door. I got hired at Rockstar Games. It was a combination of persistence and luck. I kept knocking at the door, kept really trying to find any angle I could to get in. I happenstance met people who introduced me to people who provided an opportunity to even just get slightly noticed. But they also thought it was cool that I worked at Momofuku, so they just gave me an interview because they thought I could probably get them some free food. And I ended up wowing them at the interview, and here we are today. So there's a bit of luck in all of this as well. I call this the proving ground because I got in my foot in the door, but I didn't want to close this chapter as saying, hey, I did it. I have spent the past 10 years proving that I deserve to be here and proving that I can provide value in this industry and be a leader in this industry. And I prove that by being part of incredible teams and being central to two of the biggest moments in video games for the past 10 years, which is the launch of Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2013 and the launch of Modern Warfare and Warzone in 2020 or 2019, then 2020. If you talk about the biggest moments of the 2010s in terms of this industry, that's number one and number two, and that was me both times. So really, obviously, really proud of that, and the fact that I'm still in this industry after these, like these are games that if they fail, you wash out. So I'm really, this is one I will toot my own horn a little bit because I'm really happy about the work my team did in creating these moments for our players. I got my foot in the door. I went all in to honor the opportunity. I hustled hard in my 20s to really prove to others and prove to myself that it wasn't a waste to take that chance on me, that I really deserved the opportunity that I was given, and I was going to really prove to others that I could be a contributor to this industry, to this team, and show folks what I can do. I really decided that this time around, as opposed to the other phase in my first two jobs out of college at Wyatt Inn and Gotham, working on Old Spice and Denny's, I was going to do it differently this time. I was going to focus more on being a sponge, being collaborative, doing what I could do to empower others instead of doing what I could do to empower myself, looking for opportunities to give others the spotlight instead of looking for opportunities to give me the spotlight. Really walking in every day as if I didn't know it yet, and just tell me, teach me, explain it like I'm 5, and let's go. Especially in that first, I mean, it's maybe not as appropriate these days when I'm supposed to be a senior leader, but like back then, it's okay to be transparent. It's okay to admit that you don't know the right way to do this, or you've never done this before, so show me how. And people will really respond to that, and it will make you better if you actually are taught by people that know what they're doing instead of acting like you know what you're doing, denying that instruction, and everybody loses. So it's really important. I will continue to talk about that, obviously. Seize leadership opportunities as they came up instead of trying to whittle them for myself. You know, I met everyone I could across the organization, and this really was the key at my time at Activision. It's a global company with employees all over the world that do very specialized tasks, very vertical tasks, one specific thing, but it contributes to the grand effort that is Call of Duty. And I met all of them and learned about what they do and really showed them that I could be an approachable leader, and I empathize with what you do, and I'm not going to set strategy or set directions without any consideration of who you are and what you do, because I care about what you do, and we're friends. And we're friends. I'm not going to do anything that's going to give you a hard time. I went to all the internal meetups. I scheduled external meetups and went to social events hosted by fellow employees or hosted by the company. I played in all the company sports teams. I was on the bowling team, all of this stuff. I volunteered for side projects. I was a leader at volunteer projects. I was the safety warden for our floor of the building, where I had like a yellow hard hat. And it was all, yeah, of course I care about like safety of our employees, but there was more to like, so I can meet more people and really empathize with a lot of the people that are contributing, not only to Call of Duty, but the company overall. So yeah, and then eventually over time, you'll need to start going general and being a general doer and finding more of your specialty. So that's what I did, you know, in more recent time. But skills used, skills learned, collaboration, internal networking, we talked about that, forming bonds, being a good teammate, and learning how to lead others, especially when I'm getting into the more recent years. All those topics of collaboration and being a teammate and being helpful for others. Now I had to learn how to be that person who has other people who are trying to do that for me. And that being a people manager and a team leader is an entire learning experience in and of itself that I'm in the infancy of doing right now. So that's still a continued learning experience. And then developing specific ownable skills. And I feel like we're running out of time, but this is, could give an entire TED talk about this as well. As early in my career and throughout my entire 20s, I focused more on being a generalist and doing a lot of things competently. But how you build value for yourself and you protect yourself against just really make sure you have a home at a company as it goes through transition or people get laid off or things like that, is that you start to develop and own specific skills that you do better than anybody or that you can only do and no one else can. That's what really helps you have a long extended career and places that you want to be. If like, I can't let go of Cody because only he knows how to do that, or we need to reward Cody for this because he developed this super innovative thing that no one else thought of. So I'm in my 30s now, and this is definitely more the focus of this time of my life. But I've specialized in live services and specialized in the way games are run to this day in terms of launching a game and then sustaining our player base post-launch. And there's not many people in the industry that can do what I do. And that means that I've formed a niche and formed specific ownable value for myself, which protects myself a little bit, but that may be a little bit too beyond what you guys are focused on right now. All right, last one, this one's super short, is leadership. You know, I was promoted to director of product at Activision in early 2021 after a very turbulent 2020 for a lot of different reasons. But what we accomplished in 2020 proved that I deserve to be a director of our overall product strategy. And the recent job that I have here at the beginning of 22 is joining a brand new studio called Ripple Effect here at Electronic Arts. It's a new studio that has been sort of elevated as a huge contributor to the Battlefield franchise, which is a massive franchise that we're starting up in the early stages of designing a new game and building out a huge staff for the first time that's going to be contributing to this really amazing franchise that I've been playing ever since I was a kid. So not only am I learning more about what it means to lead product strategy for games and being exposed to early stage game development, which is something I didn't get to do at Activision. I'm actually involved in the actual leadership and future of a brand new studio, and thinking about things like staffing and budgeting and how many people we hire and when we bring them in and all that stuff. So it's a hugely important and really fun and cool learning experience for me. So yeah, leading large team, driving the business, really ensuring that the amazing craft work that our incredible game designers and engineers and artists and animators allow that to be fostered and go out into the world in a big way. But I provide that business angle to it to make sure that it makes a ton of money and we can make another one next year. I enjoy, incredible access to incredible people. I really enjoy video game industry because I think it's the most perfect combination of all the different crafts that I think are cool, from technology to engineering to animation to writing to all of that is all combined together to create a video game. Whereas movies have some of that, but not all of it. Music has some of that, but not all of it. Games have all of it, which is really cool to me. And I get to meet and work with all of those people. I think that's about it. Trust in my team and empower my team. And we've talked a lot about that, but just with a few, 5 minutes left, want to make sure we save some time for some questions. So feel free, if anybody has any, fire away, and I'll pop it back over to this screen so you guys can remember what we talked about.
Thanks,
Sorry
Cody.
if I took too much time for my rambling. Didn't leave too much time for questions.
No, great job. And thank you again. Anyone have any questions, feel free to come off mute. You could also input your questions in chat. Don't be shy.
I see Alyssa has a question, Matt.
Yeah.
Alyssa, please.
Yeah, hi, Cody. Thank you for this presentation. I really resonate with your journey because I'm currently in that kind of position where you were as a senior. I've worked really hard, and like this quarter, I have an internship, and so I'm kind of relaxing right now, but I've been a product management intern for a startup based out of San Francisco for about 3 months now. And I just started looking for APM roles. So what do you think is the most important qualities and skills that I need to communicate in these interviews in order to land an APM role?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think for me, what the benefit a product manager provides is a deep understanding of the product itself. I always talk about this about newly coming on product managers, and like imagine you work for Procter & Gamble and you're a product manager for Dial dish soap, right? Like you couldn't do your job as a manager of that product unless you knew everything about that product. And it's not just like, oh, I know it washes dishes and makes them clean, but it's like how it's made, what makes it great, what the customers really like about it, what you don't like about it, or what are some pain points customers have with it. So I think, really having a deep understanding of that is important. And then next is translating that into customer behavior that drives business results. I think what product managers can do is either form strategy or rally teams to collaborate on a strategy for changing player behavior to drive the business results we want to see. Like this is just an example, but like, you know, I know this wasn't necessarily product management, but like my first job out of college was on Old Spice, right? And, you know, this is the first example I can think of, so maybe not the most applicable, but Dial, which is traditionally a brand that was for women at the time in 2009, 2010, Dial was, oh no, sorry, Dove. Sorry, Dove was traditionally a brand that was designed entirely at women, but they were making Dove men soap. And that was viewed as like a threat on Old Spice because Old Spice was soap for guys. So, you know, that was like the challenge that we had. And so the business leaders, the product leaders at the time had to figure out how we're going to like address this challenge and drive the customer behavior that we want to see. And we did that through product design. We did that through advancements of what Old Spice was and what it could do, as well as the marketing and advertising. So whatever like the company you're applying for, or the product that you're interested in, or the companies that you're interested in joining, get insight into some of the challenges they have, or the customer or consumer behavior they're trying to spark or initiate or change. They could be ones you make up or real world ones that you're aware of, and offer solutions. Like, you guys are trying to do this, you guys are trying to change customer behavior in this manner, or you're trying to get customers to do this or that. Here's how we get them to do it. And it could be through advertising, it could be through product design, it could be introducing new products or new features. But that's really is what is going to impress the people you're interviewing with. And it could be stuff you make up, for example, but they want to see that thought process. I have a challenge, here's my solution. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's definitely a great answer. And I've never thought about, you know, coming to an interview with like a hypothetical solution.
That's curious what they want to see.
Yeah. Okay.
It's cool. Not just answering their questions, but showing that you have a passion for, you live and breathe and have a passion for the challenges that the company has, and that you're taking your own free time to think through that stuff. Not only will that impress them, but it gives them insight, or gives them an open window into how your brain works. And that's what they want to see. Or at least me when I'm hiring product managers.
Thanks, Cody. It looks like, are you okay if we have time for 2 more questions? We have
yeah, I got 5 more minutes.
Okay, sounds great. Jagrat, and then Ignacio, we'll get to yours next. Jagrat mentions he's a master's in technology management. He's a student currently, but has a high interest in working in the gaming industry. He's curious on how to get your foot in the door with first interviews. Looking on LinkedIn, he notices there's hundreds of applicants, and if there's anything to do to separate himself from those applicants, what would that be?
Yeah, it's funny. I was just talking about this with my sister-in-law the other day. This is my personal experience. Like, you know, Ronald or Leslie or Ignacio may have differing advice here, but your success rate at just blindly interviewing or applying online for jobs in industries like the video game industry, in industries like that are really hot, or at top companies like Tesla and TikTok and Apple, and jobs at everywhere across the world people want, which have been further made more competitive because of work from home. And someone who lives in a remote state or remote country can be applying for jobs at Twitter, or applying for jobs at Google, and their physical location isn't a limitation anymore. Those are extremely, extremely competitive. So just clicking the apply button on their website and hoping for the best is really tough. And for me, I rarely hired people who applied online. It's the way to stand out, and the way to get that initial opportunity is the things that I was talking about early in my presentation. Is for me, the networking and getting to know people that actually work there, or those second and third degree connections that prompt those people passing along your resume on your behalf, or introducing you to people who are the hiring managers. That's just incredibly important. And for me, the only way I've been able to access any opportunity that I've gotten, especially in this industry. I will say that like even at the company, every company that I've been at, they actually provide bonus checks to when we hire someone that you referred. Like if I refer my friends or refer people that I know, I get money when those people get hired. And sometimes I share that money with the hiring manager or the HR person. So there is a bit of like a pyramid schemes system that goes on where it's like, especially for entry level positions, 22, 23 years old, there's not much difference between a referral and someone who blindly applies online. So if they're the same, we're going to pick the referrals because we get bonus checks for that. So just know that that's happening at the people that companies that you apply for. And it's really important to build those connections purely to bypass the bias that occurs with internal transfer or employee referrals and friend referrals and things like that.
Thanks, Cody.
Ignacio, you got a question?
Yeah.
Is that me?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I'll see if I can put a question into this, but I mainly just wanted to say, Cody, it's great to see you. I'm really
see you again.
Really impressed with your career path here, and love that you're giving back to the university, and just really fun to hear your career journey and your ups and downs and your willingness to be honest and transparent with all the challenges that you face in your career. So just really proud of you. And for those of you on the call here, my name is Ignacio Gallardo. I'm the Director of Career Services here. And I remember a young Cody Corona as a senior coming into my office and sitting down with me and having conversations about what motivates him and what inspires him. And, you know, I got to be honest with you, to this day, Cody is one of the more impressive students I've ever interacted with. And I have counseled hundreds, maybe thousands. I think I'm going to go into the thousands because I've been part of career services for 18 years now, almost 19 years. And, you know, Cody taught me a lot of things. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about quickly is, you know, I'm pretty sure that Cody brought up the idea of interesting person coffee fund. Do you remember this, Cody? So back in the day, he used to keep a literal coffee cup and just would put change in there and would put loose change and dollar bills there. And when there was somebody that he met or interacted with, he would use that coffee fund, that interesting person coffee fund, to buy them a cup of coffee and engage with them and learn about them. And that is something I just want to highlight so much, is that Cody was just so interested in meeting people and learning from them and being a sponge, as he's mentioned several times. Right. And, you know, hearing about his adventures driving down to LA and just really putting himself out there in these networking events and meeting people that were, you know, way up in their organizations. And he had no business engaging with these folks, but he did it and he put himself out there. And I really think that was such a critical part of his career journey, is to do that. And so again, I don't know if there's a question here, but if there's if you could talk more about those early lessons, because I think they're going to resonate with any student that's on the call right now. Like, how critical were those to getting to where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, for however much, you know, I love UCSB and value my time there and the amazing instruction I got from all my professors and things like that. Like, it was actually a blessing in disguise to realize that UCSB is a research institution, and the majority of the education I'm getting are like theoretical or science-based or like very deep foundational things, which is very valuable, because things that are based in science or things that are based in theory will stand the test of time and be applicable your entire life. So I would really value that. But it also showed me that, like, I'm not getting applicable experience by just going to classes. So I really put it upon myself to put myself in those situations where on-the-job training, informational interviews, talking with people, meeting with people, because school isn't providing me that. Just, again, I know career services and there's things out there. That's why I came to meet with you, but just going to classes and doing nothing else, that's not enough. So I had that realization and just and put myself out there and really made it a focus area my entire senior year, even entering my junior year. So, but I think the one thing that I did learn across the past 10, 12 years since I graduated is that concept of networking, meeting people, meeting interesting people, forming those connections, hearing their stories. I thought it was only applicable to help me go get jobs and find opportunities. And like I said earlier, but that outward facing effort of it, but it's extremely critical to my day-to-day inwards. I do that all day with people that I work with across the huge organizations that I work within. And I didn't know that the lessons or the skills I was building through my outward focused effort, I didn't realize the amazing impact that I would have with my inward facing performance and things like that. So there's multiple benefits of doing that and ways that'll benefit you down the road. And thanks again, Jeanette and Ronald and Matt and Leslie, everybody for inviting me, and really happy that I was able to do this. And hopefully that was helpful. And if you have any more questions, I'll be at All Gaucho Reunion, so I'm sure we can answer some of your questions then.